Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. My personal story. Yes, it is a real story and discusses my cheating wife and the impact on a lifetime relationship. My question and would like advice. Based on this, am I crazy to try this again? And is it worthwhile at 60 years of age? I've read a number of the tales, and there are some that are quite painful, and reading them devastated me. My tale is likewise rather sad, but I don't believe I can communicate the same degree of hatred and betrayal that some of the other authors and submitters have. My tale is, of course, tragic, but it may provide a new viewpoint that is worth hearing. I'm not sure why I'm writing about events that happened so long ago, but maybe it's only to remind people that wonderful things do happen with time. And for the most part, time and patience seem to heal most problems. I realize this is a lengthy topic, but I believe it is necessary to know the background in order for people to comprehend what occurred. And this prompts my query and plea for advice. Based on this, am I insane to do this again? And is it worth it at the age of 60? I met my wife, and we were together for about 10 years, 7 of which we were married. We have 2 children who are now adults with their own lives. My wife and I met on a blind date, and the whole night was unpleasant. My wife is a lovely lady with a lively attitude. I, on the other hand, am a little reserved and would not be labeled a head-turner. I'm not awful on the looks, but I don't pretend to be a terrific heartbreaker. I'm also a quiet guy, and my wife has always been the one that people notice at a party or function. She also has a kind heart, is compassionate to others, and constantly searches for the positive. Surprisingly, she appeared to like me, and our connection blossomed. Finally, we married and started our lives together. Our lives were really going rather nicely. We had a great house, solid income, supported relatives and friends, and our children were doing well. However, like in many of these situations, a spark may alter everything. A pregnancy served as our trigger. We had 2 small children at the time and wanted to add a 3rd child to make our family even bigger and happier. We never had too many worries in the bedroom, and number 3 was soon on the way. I was overjoyed when my wife gave me the news, and we waited approximately 3 months before informing the rest of our relatives. We were busy for the following 3 months arranging the nursery, working with our kids on getting ready for the new baby, looking at finances and so on. When my wife phoned to inform me that something was wrong with the baby, it was maybe the darkest day of my life. We took her to the hospital, and regrettably, and tragically, my wife miscarried at 6 months. We were both traumatized, and the drive home the following day was filled with quiet and misery. My wife went to bed that night and did not leave the room for 3 days. She was completely overwhelmed by despair and melancholy. For some reason, she also felt she had let me down as my wife. I assured her again and over that this was an act of God, that she had done nothing wrong, and that we might try again when the time was right. But she didn't believe me and continued to blame herself for the whole incident, sinking into sadness. It took approximately 6 months, but she looked to be getting out of her melancholy and back to her regular self. We were both doing well with the kids. She appeared to have regained her personality, and we were discussing the future. She also began to work out in order to get back into shape. She looked great, and I enjoyed complimenting her and telling her how much I loved her. During this time, she also discussed pursuing a part-time job with me. It wasn't so much about the money as it was about getting out of the home and staying connected. I told her it was a fantastic idea and urged her to think about it and go for it. She found a job as a waitress and partnered at a restaurant directly down the street from us, much to my astonishment. She has a business degree, but does not want to work in a white-collar job. She believed the hours and duties would be too much for her with our house and family, but she was wrong. She'd be able to make some money for herself while still feeling like she was helping. She also said that she needed to work and interact with grown-ups in order to break free from her seclusion at home. I told her it was fantastic news and that she should go for it. Now, as I previously said, my wife is a beautiful lady. I should also mention that she is a voluptuous lady who looked fantastic with her level of fitness and weight reduction. She has never had a problem drawing male attention, but she has also always been faithful to me, and I have never had cause to mistrust her. She had begun her new work and was doing well. She worked 2 or 3 evenings every week, generally on Fridays or Saturdays. Her work attire made me uneasy since she wore apparel that highlighted her body. It was nice, but I hoped she had been more conservative. She smiled at me and said it was a terrific way to bring in more tips, and that her costumes would pique my love interest. The restaurant's proprietor was a decent guy who managed a solid company. He was fair to his employees, and his whole family worked there as well. To be honest, his son was a bit of an arrogant jerk. He had been born into riches and made no secret of his desire to live a comfortable life. He was around the same age as my wife, and I must say he was a really attractive man. He was married, but he had no children. His wife is likewise a gorgeous and great person. She also worked at the restaurant and was in charge of the bookkeeping. All catering and special occasions were handled by the son. At the very least, he was expected to do so. According to my knowledge, he was fairly indolent and often shifted his obligations to his family and employees. He preferred to lift weights, work out, drive around in his beautiful vehicle, live off his family, and generally boast and gloat about how good he was with ladies. I'm not sure how his wife handled it. He was a flamboyant person, to be sure, but he did not impress me in the least. I could tell he was nothing more than a big-mouth windbag the moment I met him. My wife had told me numerous times that the guy was really attractive in an exciting sense, but he was an arrogant toe rag, and she couldn't bear him. But in order to get along, she had to work with him and keep her mouth shut. She could work with him on a regular basis, and they eventually developed a friendship. I wasn't very worried, but I did warn her that this person was danger and she should avoid him. My wife began to behave strangely during the following several months. She kept a tight check on her phone, pretended to be late for work, and started to be away for extended periods of time, claiming to be shopping or doing errands. She also started to neglect me, and I saw she wasn't as attentive to the kids as she had been in the past. My wife is an excellent mother, but she looked impatient at the moment and had no qualms about delegating additional chores to me. It was difficult, since I also work full-time and am the family's major earner. I expressed my worry to her, but she assured me that everything was okay and that I was seeing difficulties where none existed. It was late one night when my wife and I were alone. I made a move on her, and she immediately turned me down. When I asked her what was wrong, she burst into tears and began trembling. When I asked her what was wrong, I got the shock of my life. My wife informed me that she had been dating the owner's son for about 6 months, that the connection had gone, that she loved him, that we were done, and that she was leaving me to live with him. She also informed me that she had been very sad after the miscarriage and that she thought something had died in our marriage. She needed a new start and the freedom to live her life. She also said she liked this man and that he might make her happy. I was clearly shaken and implored her to rethink. She informed me it was too late and that she and her new partner would be moving into an apartment they had acquired. I questioned her about the kids, and she said it would be better if they remained in the house with me to maintain a nice household, and she would be there to see them. To say I was stunned and astounded by what had happened would be an understatement. My wife said that she didn't understand the surprise since she assumed I was fully aware of her dissatisfaction with our marriage, and that the loss was the last nail in the metaphorical coffin. When I found out who she was in a relationship with, I was furious. It's one thing to be completely shafted by your wife. It's quite another to discover she was abandoning you for a jerk. I don't want to generalize, but it seems that there is some truth to the fact that so many women are drawn to people like him. I'm not sure whether it was his appearance, his flamboyant lifestyle, or his loud tongue that drew me in, but she seemed to be interested in him, and things escalated from there. I was also surprised that she had been dating him for 6 months without my knowledge. They had supposedly been having intercourse in his vehicle, the restaurant, motels, his house, our house when no one was around, and so on. It was a genuine betrayal, and it severely upset me, but I kept my cool and kept thinking about what I was going to do. What followed were many weeks of tears, grief, cajoling, and, in general, a lot of junk. My family, particularly my father, were enraged and started making disparaging remarks about her. My wife's family was also outraged about the issue, but not with the same amount of hostility and venom as my family did. I literally had to interfere with my father and tell him to stop hurling obscenities at my wife. She was still the mother of his son's children, and as a grandpa, he owed her respect. My father agreed and complimented me on how I handled the matter. I informed him that I didn't see any advantage in pursuing vengeance on my soon-to-be ex-wife. She was the mother of my children, and I needed to get along with her for the sake of our children. Do not misunderstand me. I wanted to be a jerk, but I gave it a lot of consideration. I believe I made the perfect decision and would have done the same thing in hindsight. As I previously said, it was a difficult couple of weeks, but she eventually moved out and into an apartment with this man. She saw her children and tried to be involved in their lives. I also felt bad for this guy's wife, who was horrified by what had happened. She did quit the restaurant to find another career, and she did get divorced. I would sometimes see her at the local grocery shop and always wished her luck. She was born in Pennsylvania and finally returned to her hometown. I understand she remarried to a wonderful guy and has a good life with children. I wish her the best of luck. Without a doubt, her breakup with this person was the finest thing that happened to her. The divorce itself went off without a hitch. She did got some money from me as a result of the asset partition. I did agree to pay some alimony support for a limited term, which I believe was 6 months. It seemed like a cheap way out of the problem to me. In reality, I would have probably agreed to whatever cash demand she made in order to end the situation. I was kept as the main custody parent with 50/50 visitation. I assured her she could always stop and visit her children. She did this on several times, and everything looked to be rather steady. I also believe she loved seeing me when she came to see the kids, although it may be wishful thinking on my side. My wife did not earn a lot of money, but she did pay a little amount of child support each month. To her credit, she always did her best and never missed a payment for her children. In hindsight, there is no question in my mind that my wife was going through a personal crisis as a result of the loss and its aftermath. I'm not some big prize, but there's no way my wife would have done what she did in her right mind. But I was helpless, and there was nothing I could do. Stay tuned for the next part.